Hello.
How you doing, my friend?
Good, good. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can. I see we do have a total of 10 attendees already, so we don't need to wait a lot. Let's wait just for a couple of minutes, perhaps, and then get started. We can start with introductions, possibly.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's 1 minute past, so we'll just start. Yeah, so just quick logistics before for everyone in the session so far. We'll share all of the material plus the recording of this session afterwards. So I'll send an email to everyone with the recording and everything else that was shared in this session, so you can recap or you can use those materials as well. So that's also for anyone that can't stay for the 45 minutes and so. And if you can't stay for the 45 minutes, at the end we'll have Q&A. So if you have questions, do share your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to address in the Q&A session, and you can rewatch it afterwards in the recording. All right, so today I'm joined by Jaime, and we'll talk about the quick wins. Basically, what are they, who are they for, and why should you care about quick wins? We'll look at some of the dangers you might encounter along the way, and introduce you to our acceleration framework to help you become disruptive and drive great impact without having to micromanage. So before we start, we'll do introductions. I'll go first, and then I'll hand over the session control to Jaime to introduce himself and basically kickstart the session. So hello, for everyone that doesn't really know me, I'm Biro. I'm a co-founder at Jexo. At Jexo, we build apps for planning and tracking work in Jira Cloud. I have a technical background, and I've been involved in helping to build project management solutions and platforms for over 5 years. I'm also an individual that likes good structure and process, but not really at the cost of flexibility. Um, and aside from my nature, I'm also keen in the topic of quick wins, and how to impact work and outcomes, because our Jexo team prides with a lean and nimble attitude. And we've tried a lot of times and failed, and learned how to properly approach embedding the ability to define and deliver quick wins. So that's basically my background. That's why I'm currently a bit obsessed, probably like Jaime, with quick wins. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Jaime so he can introduce himself.
All right, thank you, Vero. Let's see. Turning on my video so you folks can see me. Hello. Well, it's great being here. Very happy to see that we have a great number of professionals and leaders in this session. My name is Jaime Capitel. For those who don't know me, I'm currently the content marketing manager at Resolution. Resolution is the Platinum Atlassian Marketplace partner. We are the leaders in the enterprise user management space, with the most important apps for SSO4 Jira, Confluence, and so on. Um, the reason why we're talking about quick wins is also very close to my heart, because it connects to work that I've done in the past when I was looking at different things, but somehow related. When I did research on think tanks, I was trying to figure out how this type of interesting organizations actually learn. What does it mean for to say that an organization, as opposed to an individual, can learn? What does it mean to say that you can? How can you create a culture for changing? How can you motivate people to constantly rethink what they're doing without going crazy, right? And in a way, what we're going to talk about today is a bit similar, and I hope that you can take a learning note or two from them. Let me start sharing my screen with the presentation. All right. All right. Can everybody see the first slide of the webinar?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. Perfect. Why are we talking again about creating a quick win accelerator? Well, basically, we think that I disagree with some part of the common ideas around quick wins. As we will see, we want to challenge some assumptions, and we want to see how we can build that framework for a repeatable process that you can use for constant change, no matter in which situation. So the basic idea here is we're taking the inspiration from the growth hacking mindset, where you do a lot of experiments, you test a lot of things, and you are always open for change and in a learning mode. Um, and I think even we want to contribute a little bit to the debate around how to take agile to the enterprise, right? That I think it's completely bloated if you think of stuff like safe framework and stuff like that that just suck all of the life and spontaneity from the agile mindset. We're going to show something much simpler, a little more common sense. Um, so let's just jump right into it. Um, Usually, well, we all know what a quick win is, right? It's something that it's low hanging fruit. You should do it no matter what because it's beneficial and you can do it very quickly and you're going to see the results immediately. Um, we want to challenge the idea that quick wins are ephemeral, or to put it somewhat differently, we want to challenge the assumption that you shouldn't think about which quick wins you're going to do, because it can be very counterproductive. You have to choose very carefully how you spend your time and your effort around those low-hanging fruits so that you're actually connecting those to your long-term goals, to your strategy. Um, if you think of quick wins as these basic pieces for constant change, you probably need to adjust also a little bit how we think about impact. And impact won't be just revenue, financial gains. It will be, as I said before, much more about learning internally, which pieces of work, which activities, which procedures should be incorporated into your skill set, into your know-how. Externally, learning more about the market where you're operating, particularly if you're tapping into new markets, basically looking for signals of where a market is going in the next year, validating what a competitor is doing, stuff like that. But even more importantly, it's about learning how to collaborate in this process towards constant change, because this means having this quick win framework is a lot about people, as you will see. It's about motivating others. It's about reshuffling the deck of what people are supposed to be doing, so that you put to work people in a task force to ideate or execute a quick win that have not worked together in the past. And when you start doing that, you get sparks of innovation. You start building a new angle of things. You start covering blind spots about processes that you didn't know you had. And I think that's a great aspect of this process. Um, so what does it mean also to start operating with this quick win culture? It means going beyond the traditional position of quick wins as the high impact, low effort quadrant of the matrix, because basically, if you have strategic initiatives, it doesn't make any sense to go about them without first going into discovery mode. And that discovery mode means experiment a lot, testing a lot, knowing what your known unknowns are and trying to clear them out, validating and having a data-driven approach. And doing that with a framework that is as specific and as quick as possible is I think, greatly beneficial. Also, going downwards instead of going to the right. You can also, what I was saying about putting people together and thinking about your business processes and about constant improvements in a novel way. When you when you create an environment and a culture of transparency, when people can say, we can have people from IT, from support, from accountants, from finance, people who are usually introverts, and they may know that something we're doing is not totally right, but they may not have had a voice up until that moment. Especially if you are in a large organization, a more traditional organization, it can be very hard to raise to the attention of leadership to some small changes. But by going about this process and making constant improvements to your day-to-day operations, you are constantly creating more value and you're constantly having a more lean approach to whatever it is you're doing. And I would certainly admit that this is very generic, but it can be applied to whatever your context is, hopefully. Obviously, everything, as you can see, everything I'm saying is not written in stone. We are not gurus of anything. We are just putting together things that are already out there and trying to inspire professionals like you to have a way to basically put aside time from what they're already doing every day, breaking habits, and really having a lever to start changing the way you operate currently, to break away with the status quo. If there's something that doesn't resonate, obviously ask us or challenge it, and we'll be happy to have a discussion at the end. Okay, so who is this for? Is this valid for any situation? Possibly not, but we think that this is very broad. It's not just for startups and scale-ups, which is possibly where it's already used very often, because this phase of a company is basically built for change and for validating and for testing new products and so on. But even in startups, it can be hard as Vera will say later, it can be hard to be lean and to find a way to have a process for change and for innovation. It can be good for new leaders who want to establish their vision or their way forward without micromanaging, and this is a good framework that Vera will show in a bit for those folks who want to convince others in a more organic way. And it's also, I think it also applies to any company in a very mature stage, no matter the size, that needs to start disrupting, that needs to break away with the old energy. If you have a product that has peaked or is about to peak, and you need to basically funnel a lot of your resources to innovation, you don't perhaps you don't know how to act differently. How do I start acting differently so that it makes sense? Should I start writing with my nose and elbows? What do I do? And you just have to give people the freedom to test and try things, and with a process that allows you to prioritize and to identify the alignment with your existing goals. That's always it's always more directed, and it will produce a better culture as well. Because we cannot forget that obviously we are talking about motivation, we're talking about people. There's a very high risk, that a very high chance that you will create a toxic culture if you push for quick wins, for immediate results too hard, without thinking of the consequences. And we're not making this up. This is very solid research by Fanburn and Cypherstone. They have a great article called The Quick Wins Paradox, published 11 years ago in 2009 on the Harvard Business Review. They surveyed hundreds of professionals, new leaders, and they saw very clearly that those who failed to establish their tenure and have a successful an enduring tenure, it was because um, they already had a plan, and they wanted to push it to their teams. They wanted to very quickly be successful in an isolated way, and they were micromanaging everyone. They were pushing people. They were jumping to conclusions, and they were not open to criticism. So what do you have to do? You have to bear in mind this. This is a very high risk, and you have to push for the opposite. You have to try as a leader to create culture that is about collective ownership, that states very clearly what are the shared goals of the company, and rewards people who are innovative, who are not afraid to try. Because quick wins, if we are talking about learning, um, very often the a possible and a positive result of an experiment will be that a new tactic or something we thought it could work, it doesn't work, and we're just closing that door because we know that that's not the way to go before spending a lot of time and effort on it, right? So it's about creating that sense of collective ownership and building an end-to-end vision of how we are changing together. And okay, I don't know how long it took. I hope that it wasn't too long. Vero, and you still have time for your part. Vero will now basically go about the process itself, which will be much more practical. I'm gonna
Thank
stop
you
sharing
so
my
much
screen.
for that introduction, Jaime. I'll just take control. One second. Right. Can everyone still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that great introduction. I hope that it helps convey a bit and reflect how we look at quick wins in a more generic sense, and yeah, and basically who this is tailored to. And let me share my screen before going into the framework and our learnings from trying various things around the quick wins framework. I just want to mention something. Um, and I put a quote on the screen. Let me just present so that it's full screen. I think I've learned in the past, and while trying to adopt a quick win type of culture, that it is pretty hard to be disruptive in anything, product development, delivering change, and such, um, if you're going about with the exact same processes and principles that you apply in your business on a day-to-day basis. Um, we I have a couple of stories around how we tried and failed and adapted. But I think that the one story that I can tell you, a quick mention, is not long ago when, so as I mentioned before, at Jexo we kind of pride ourselves of being lean and agile and adapting fast, and we do have a long term roadmap of where we want to get as a team, as products and such. And we kind of got caught up in that long term vision and those lengthier deliverables, that we started slacking on the kind of like the responsiveness of engaging with our customers, with our users, with people that are interested in our product, and basically delivering um, value fast. And that was a trap that we kind of fell into. We were attracted by this long-term vision of where we want to drive our strategy and our products, and we were slacking with the responsiveness of our towards our customers, support, and things like that. So we had to do something, and we decided we wanted to be disruptive. But we decided we're going to be disruptive by using the exact same methods of work and delivering value that we were using for our long-term roadmap. And one of the things that Jaime mentioned towards the end around the fact that there are traps that you can fall into around the health of your team and basically the toxicity that you can that these kind of quick wins can convey. I think that's what happened to us initially, and that was because we were trying to jam in these sprints of quick wins using the exact same tools that we were using for our long-term vision work, and that caused a bit of uh, drop in motivation and happiness of the team. I'm probably one of the most guilty people when it comes to that, because I was rather than, and we'll talk a bit about that and how to achieve this, but rather than taking the team on a journey and basically sharing the ownership and the wins with the team, I was mainly delegating and micromanaging and trying to get people to do things fast so that we win quick and such. And that really didn't turn out quite well. We had to we suffered a bit after those quick win sprints, um, but that made me think there, something is not working. So we decided to start amending the way we were addressing these quick win sprints. So rather than doing exactly the same things that we were doing for our bigger events, bigger deliverables, we decided to start thinking about a process that fits the nature of quick wins, if that makes sense. And um, we initially came up with an initial process. Again, it had to go through a couple of iterations until we got it into a smooth running machine, to put it like that. But basically, the quick win accelerator, what we call the quick win accelerator, is a 4-step process that should help any organization to start adopting a solid quick wins culture, whilst avoiding some of the toxicity traps that Jaime mentioned and I just mentioned in our examples. And this is not a one shoe fits all, and it's not a overnight thing. Again, we had to go through the process several times, and we had not just had to go through the process several times in order to start better fine tune the definition of quick wins for us. We also had to alter the process a couple of times. So take this process as is, see how you can adapt it for your organization, and give it a try and adapt. And I'll start with the first phase, which is the ideate. So everyone has their own unique way of how you go about in basically doing brainstorming workshops and figuring out what's the next thing that you should be, what's the next theme of your sprint, and how you should what's the most important um, piece of work in our organization. And again, we tried to approach the ideation phase the way we were approaching our ideation phase for the strategy of our products, which again didn't really work out. So we had to adapt, and we came up with 3 steps for the ideation: basically building focus, goal setting, and brainstorming um, ideas for quick wins. And for all of these 3 sections, we basically looked at the tools and the resources that we already own. So basically, none of this is reinventing the wheel. Whoops, sorry. And I'll just quickly, briefly talk about this. I have a few links already open here. So in terms of building focus, we really wanted to select those weak spots where improvements are needed, again, in the context of um, we are kind of detached from, let's say, our customers, and being responsive and showing quick value to our customers and such. So we decided to use for each of these stages. Now, we're doing these as separate sessions, but you can also have, for example, a lengthier workshop where you build focus, you and basically select the theme of the quick win sprint. You set your goals. What do you want to achieve? What's the focus, and what are the desired outcomes out of that specific sprint? And afterwards, brainstorm and um, basically find ideas and define very rough quick win ideas that will potentially help address the problem statement. And I say quick win rough ideas, and I'll tell you why rough ideas. But first, for these sessions, what we do is we use and probably majority of my network would is part of Atlassian and knows what the team playbooks are. So we use Atlassian's team playbooks for these ideate sessions. So for building focus, we use the problem framing, a 30 minutes exercise to basically figure out what is the weak spot and write it down. The goal setting, we use the goal signals and measures team playbook. Again, pretty good. Can be quite lengthy. So again, I would suggest figuring out if this is the right approach. If not, you can use other goal setting standards. And then brainstorming, we use the disruptive brainstorming playbook. And again, this is a really good one because we have to get out of that mundane thinking of how to solve problems and come up with quick wins ideas. So we basically use the challenge cards to always try to ensure that as a team we don't come up with ideas that aren't necessarily quick wins. So that's the ideate phase. Let me just go into present mode again. So out of the ideation phase, you'd usually come out with a rough, let's call it backlog of quick wins ideas. So what the prioritization phase does is help, and this is I would say one of the most important phases. Ideation, execute, and such, they can be interpreted and they can be adjusted to fit your team structure and the type of deliverables that you engage with. But the prioritization phase is what I think where our expertise lies ultimately, and this is the phase that will help you really accurately pinpoint those quick wins. Because, and this is one of the stages that we had to iterate multiple times, and the reason why is because we kept on failing with that. And I think one of the biggest, and this is public forum and such, but one of the biggest failures was actually my failure with one of our let's say one of our features for one of our products. So we have an app in Jira Cloud called Swanly, which is a road mapping solution. Currently works with Jira releases and enables you to plan and track your releases on a nicely laid down timeline. Now, we some time ago prioritized implementing issue timeline in our app, basically broadening our functionality, or basically enabling our users to use our awesome roadmap tool with issues, not just releases. And I've massively underestimated how challenging implementing the issue timeline will be, and time consuming fundamentally. In my head, that was always a quick win. I think it still is a tiny bit. And with we I defined that issue timeline functionality as a quick win without going through a thought process like the accelerator, quick win accelerator prioritization phase. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes, not going through these check marks to really figure out if what I'm talking about is a quick win or not. So there are again 3 steps in this prioritization phase. The health assessment, figuring out the impact versus effort, and whether the item is sustainable versus repeatable. But I think the most fundamental items here, influence items, to put it like that, to help you establish whether an item is a quick win or not, is the health assessment and the impact versus effort. And I'll open a piece of spreadsheet that basically Jaime and I put together to help us with this prioritization step. And I'll share this spreadsheet with you so you can potentially use it or analyze it in detail and such. And this is where we have those basically those 3 steps of defining whether an idea is a quick win. And in terms of health score, this addresses the trap that Jaime mentioned earlier around the trap of toxicity around the quick wins. And the way this specific metric, this specific stage of the prioritization process helps is by basically you answering 5 fundamental questions about that idea. And these questions are not something new. They're not trademarked. They're actually from something what Jaime mentioned as well, from the paperwork from Van Buren and Stufferstone, the quick wins paradox. If you haven't read this, I highly recommend reading it. They have in this paper actually 10 questions. We kind of outlined the topics and kind of skimmed it into 5 fundamental questions. And these questions are around the value that specific item brings, the feasibility of delivering that item, if it's a real collective impact, which is again an important question, because you would want to bring your entire team on a journey and make sure that everyone contributes to that win, rather than being a solitude hero, to put it like that, which as we know, never conveys anything else than toxicity and promoting self-heroes. Opportunity to learn, again, very important, and to engage. And if your answers to these 5 questions are all yes, then congratulations, you're a level 4 vegan. And that's how we decided to think about the health score, starting from being a complete nuclear waste, to unhealthy, to athletic, to all the way all the way up to sorry, I messed up this. All the way up to level 4 vegan. They're basically 5 scoring levels, and based on the amount of how you answer these questions, you figure out whether this idea of a quick win is a healthy one or not. Other than that, we have value versus effort. If you do prioritization and you're going beyond the high, medium, low, you'd probably heard of value versus effort. And this is, again, a way to score whether what's the value of that specific item, and is the effort small or extremely large. All of these have values attached, and I'll mention in a bit why. And then also we can talk about team size and the type, whether it's sustainable or repeatable. Again, it's up to you if you want or not to use these metrics. I think from my perspective, these are the most important ones. And underneath that, we have some examples of some tasks. Let's say you want to launch an app and you have all of these tasks. You want to create a landing page, a LinkedIn video, and so on to launch that app. You will calculate, you will select, you will decide with the team basically what the health of that specific item is, what the value, effort, and so on, using the value rather than the actual definition, the key of here. And the reason why you do that is because we have also put together here, if I highlight this, a formula that helps you establish whether, based on those metrics, whether that specific idea is a quick win or not. And in this scenario, based on the notes, the formula here is always the same, right? What changes is the metrics that the team votes on to establish this issue. And as we can see, there are few items here that stand out with a higher score calculation. For example, support automation and landing page type ad. And these are basically defined by the team as being quick wins, while some of these others seem extremely toxic. So going through this exercise over and over again and iterating, you'll start fine-tuning, tweaking, and you'll start seeing these numbers, as in this example, a lot more spread apart. So it's again, it's not an overnight process. At the beginning, there will be a bit of hiccups, and these numbers are not going to be that spread apart. Because you might not have clarity in some of the decisions around these metrics and how you vote on these specific metrics. But as we know, with time, things will get better. You'll get to polish. You'll get to adjust these numbers the way it fits for your organization. So that is the prioritization phase. Again, very important from my perspective, because it at the end of it, your team should be pretty comfortable with the selected backlog, the filtered backlog of quick wins. And in the next phase, the execution. Now, again, this probably, it really depends. Again, we tried few things. We settled with these three I wouldn't necessarily call them steps, because you have to do them kind of in tandem, these 3 points. One being refinement. And this is where you'll define the opportunity of a specific quick win, the benefits, as well as metrics and any barriers that you might encounter as well. And the reason why refinement is here and not, let's say, before prioritizing, is because this is basically let's say describing in detail and spending time in polishing those specific quick wins, rather than refinement as in filtering and establishing whether that item is a quick win, if that makes sense. Refinement usually takes a certain amount of effort, and you would want to properly establish whether you even want to spend time, that specific effort, into refinement before defining whether it's a quick win or not. So you should define whether it's a quick win or not, because also refinement itself you will have to spend time in figuring out the outcomes and such. And then defining ownership. you have to allocate a minimum amount of team, and this is what we do. We try to not have, again, specific heroes in the team, and have cumulated effort, in order, not just for velocity perspective, because two people can deliver faster than one, but also so that it feels like a collective win, rather than a one hero type of endeavor. And of course, mentoring, and facilitating, whether the roadmap or the road ahead is unclear, and protecting the resources from any bottlenecks. You'd always have to make sure that you mentor the team, and aid. So that's execute. Again, execute. Try various ways. This is our way. This is what works for us for quick wins, and not necessarily be the type of steps that work for you. And then recognition, the fourth step. Again, I would argue that this is quite important as well, a critical phase. But because without this phase, you don't really understand whether the accelerator worked and what to take out of it, to put it like that. Just having an outcome, just having an end to an activity doesn't make it successful. I don't know if that makes sense. You have to measure, you have to use those metrics that you defined previously, and establish whether it was a success or not. Very important as well to celebrate at this phase with the team, celebrate the wins, as well as disseminate and learn. And I think Jaime mentioned this. It is a constant learning curve, and that's one of the most important aspects of this framework. I would say self-awareness. If you are self-aware of the mistakes you've done and the previous iterations, and you can pinpoint that in yourself, and help your team be self-aware as well, I think this process and the constant iterations will get better without that much friction, to put it like that. And of course, productionize. But hopefully, at the end of it, you can apply the learnings, to include the outcomes of these quick wins in your day-to-day operations and product offering and such. Like Jaime mentioned, it shouldn't be an ephemeric and one-time thing. So these are the four steps. Probably nothing new. Maybe a bit around the prioritization bunch. So again, we do have the sheet over here. So if you want to quickly take a screenshot and look at that and play with it and basically clone it in your own Google Sheet or Microsoft and such, give it a try and give us feedback on it. I'll also share all of the resources around the prioritization phase and everything that we've talked. But I think there's another aspect of it, and I think I can already forecast some of the questions that we'll have post this, which is a bit about, okay, this is all fine. We'll get to have quick wins, but some of the process doesn't seem very lean. It seems a bit of an overhead, and I'd love some overhead. Said no one ever. So I'll basically introduce you to one way for you to kind of cut down on the overhead. Now, again, there are probably others, and we constantly learn about some of the other areas, but around the prioritization phase, we, as I mentioned, we're an Atlassian cloud app provider. We build apps for cloud, and one of our apps is Foxley. It's a backlog prioritization tool. You can score your work, your issues, your Jira issues, and you will see on my screen something very familiar, which was basically the prioritization, the entire prioritization phase of the quick win accelerator. We managed to basically structure um, the activities of figuring out what items are quick wins into Foxley. And this is actually something new in Foxley. We actually just launched today this prioritization method, the quick wins prioritization method in Foxley. And if you go in and you want to try Foxley and you install it today, you will get this prioritization method. So just to quickly explain what you see on the screen. So this is the Foxley main view. It detects all of your items in your Jira project, and we have metrics assigned here, like the health assessment that I was talking about with the scoring steps from the spreadsheet that I shared, the value versus effort, team size, and type. And this table here is editable, so you can edit inline and quickly select from drop downs and rate your items. And it uses the exact same scoring formula as in the spreadsheet to basically give you the quick wins. And as we can see, the quick wins are highlighted here. So basically, this is for anyone that uses Jira Cloud and doesn't want the overhead of having to deal with any other mediums and have that disconnect from where they manage their tasks, which eventually will be populated by these quick wins during the quick win sprint. You can use this. There's also customization available, so you can go in the customize screen and change the formula along the way while you adapt and you learn from various cycles of your quick win sprints. You can adapt the formula, so you can change the calculation as well as the actual values of the metrics. So, for example, if you realize that I don't really ever get into nuclear waste state with these ideas, so then you can just remove it or alter the numbers and such. And there's also a neat visual view in Foxley where you can quickly figure out where your quick wins are. For example, I've set the X value as the X metric as value, effort, and bubble size as health assessment. And you can figure out from this screen. So this is effort, value is here on the horizontal, and then the bubble size are the health assessment score. So you can see that we have this AL4, which is all the way on the bottom right where it should be, whereas the most value and the least effort and the bubble size seems pretty meaty, to put it as well, to put it like that. While you can also see one item here all the way in the corner right, which is probably very toxic and very a lot of effort required and such. Now, this is representative. You're probably going to have things sometimes distributed depending on your ideas, and at the beginning this will tend to happen. But as you go to the process and iterate, things will improve and the image will look a lot more like this than having things a bit clustered in a place. So yeah, again, as I mentioned, we just launched the quick wins method as a default, as a not a default, as a template in Foxley. If you want to give it a try, by all means, but do feel free probably to have a look at also the spreadsheet that we shared and make sure that all of that stuff in there makes sense before you use Foxley for it. So thank you so much for making it so far and listening. Well, wow, we're a bit over time. No surprise. But yeah, we'll open it to Q&A now, and I'll just stop sharing. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the channel, and Jaime and I will do our best to help. I think we'll spend another 5 minutes. Whoever wants to stay on the line and ask questions and have a discussion. Okay. See, right. So why should I use Foxley and not just my spreadsheet? Okay, that's a very good point, because again, you do have the spreadsheet available as well. And as I mentioned before, I don't know if I made it very clear, but it's kind of all about staying where your work already is. And if you're a Jira Server user, then I can recommend similar apps like Komal Agile, Ranking, and so on. It's not quite the same terms of flexibility, but does have a cool value versus impact matrix. Again, it's that overhead that you would have to put up with by using a spreadsheet if you use Jira to manage your tasks, if that makes sense. um yeah. Yeah, I hope that answered the question. I have another one from Leo. The health assessment looks already like a complex thing. What's your experience with that? Yeah, as I mentioned, um iterations. It's slow at first. It was slow for us as well, and we actually initially thought that, well, is it a quick win if we spend so much time figuring out whether this is a quick win or not. But I think it's slow at first, particularly while you work through the ideation phase, because that's one of the things that usually take the most, and take time to establish kind of like a shared vision. um, so I would say don't expect too much in the first iteration, in terms of execution. But you learn from the process, and you adapt, and we can say that we're a lot more efficient nowadays with our process, and how quick we go through these sprints, than we were at the beginning when we were learning from it a lot. We still do. I hope that answers the question. Any other questions in the chat?
I think that we will be ranting about this still on LinkedIn with our ideas and so on. So it would be great if if we can also exchange views with you guys when you start trying the spreadsheet, or if you start trying stuff on Foxley, and have your own ideas around the matrix and what's worked better with you. We really appreciate that feedback, to kind of solidify this a little bit. Um, yeah, I think if nobody else has questions, it's fine, because it was already a bit lengthy. Vero, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Anyways, I think you all know where to find me, and Jaime as well. Uh, Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn with any questions. I will forward this, everything that we've discussed, the recording, as well as the material, with you through your email addresses. And yeah, feel free to reply and ask any questions. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for being here, and thank you for listening to us blabbing about this topic. We're quite passionate about it. And yeah, have a great evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are.
Thanks, everyone. Take care and see you around.